Hi, I'm Guy Mussey again, and I'm the horticulture agent for Virginia Cooperative Extension in Stafford County. And this is our second video that we're doing of Cossey Park, the botanical park that Master Gardeners and I put together a number of years ago with a collection of really neat plants. To the back of me, you can see one of my first plants. We're going to talk about the first 4 plants we planted here today, as well as some others. But that is the Chinese elm or lacebark elm. It's the first one I picked for this. It is an absolutely gorgeous plant, and because not only is it a nice shade tree, it's well behaved, meaning it's not invasive or anything, but it also has beautiful bark, so you get that nice winter interest for it. Okay, so this lacebark elm, I want to show you some points of it. The botanical name is Ulmus parvifolia in the family Ulmaceae. Okay, so it's that elm family. And I want you to see how beautiful and handsome the leaves are. This is just a little stem. These are single leaves. It does not compound. Each one of these is an individual leaf. All the elms are serrated. We'll talk about that in a minute when we look at the next tree so you can see it a little bit better. But I'm going to keep this so when I compare this to the American elm we have here, you can see the difference in the size. Excuse me. Okay, and behind me, I hope you can see that the bark is kind of a mottled bark. It's a beautiful ornamental quality of this tree. A gorgeous tree for a backyard. Okay, the next tree is Ulmus americana, or the American elm, which, as most of you know, is pretty much not extinct, but it's really gone by the wayside. This used to be small town American street tree. It's an absolutely gorgeous tree. But back in the 30s, 40s, the Dutch elm disease came in and wiped out most of the trees, the American elms, in the United States, for that matter. There are some pockets of American elm. I know Penn State has a large planting of them. Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin does. But here we have one that is planted. This was planted as a memorial tree. One of my master gardeners wanted to use a majestic tree. So this tree was planted as a memorial to her mother a number of years ago. She wanted something that would be strong, long-lasting, and this is it. This is the Liberty elm, which is a cultivar of the American elm, which suppose it has resistance or even tolerance of the American or of the Dutch elm disease. And so far, it's showing that it's a gorgeous tree. Now we're going to walk up here and take a look at the leaves to show you the difference. Again, it's an elm like the Chinese elm or lacebark elm, except this is Ulmus americana rather than Ulmus parvifolia. Okay, we're close up to the American elm, and I did want to kind of show you some things in this video to give you a little bit more detail on some of these plants. These are the leaves, and let me pick one of these. So I'll just take this little stem. This is an individual leaf right there, and I want you to see the size of that compared to the Chinese elm or lacebark elm. You can see the serrations very clearly on the American elm. There is serrations on this as well, on the lacebark elm, but they're not near as pronounced. Certainly this is a much smaller leaf than the American elm. Okay, now the tree behind me, Metasequoia glyptostrobides, or the dawn redwood, was the second tree we planted here, but not this one. The one that we had planted just about 2 years ago was about 20 feet. It was a beautiful tree, but right here off to my left is the retention basin for Fredericksburg, and we have beaver living there. And the beavers actually came up and gnawed around the tree and killed it. So we replanted it with this one about 2 years ago. It's just now really getting established and starting to grow. The point about this tree is this is what I call the fossil tree, because up until about 1941, this tree was only found in the fossil records in China. It's from China. However, an individual man from China found this tree growing in an obscure valley of China, brought it out, and now it's all over the world now, and it's a gorgeous tree This is a needle tree, but it's not a needled evergreen. It is deciduous, meaning that it does lose those needles in the fall. It will get a nice bronzish, burnt orange color to it in the fall. Gorgeous tree. And this tree may be mixed up with another American native, the bald cypress, which we have planted here as well. I'm going to show you in a minute how to tell the difference between a dawn redwood and a bald cypress. Now the Metasequoia is a plant, as I said earlier, is deciduous, just like the bald cypress. And it actually looks a lot like the bald cypress. I have a twig of the bald cypress. Now the needles are smaller, but that's really not the big difference because they will get bigger as time goes on. If you wanted to tell the difference, the best way to do that is to look at the arrangement of the needles. Okay, so if you look at this closely, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, the needles on the dawn redwood are opposite each other. That means there's two ranked at each node. On the bald cypress, they are alternate. Okay, that is the big difference in distinguishing the two. Now, if you're familiar with them, you could tell them from a distance, really. The bald cypress, actually, Taxodium distichum, is in the same family as the dawn redwood, Cupressaceae, but the bald cypress actually grows in our southern swamps, and that's where it gets the knees. When it's grown not in a swamp or a well-drained area, it does not get those big knobs coming up at the base. That's for aeration, in wet soils. The one we have growing here does not have those knees, which I think are really cool looking for a tree to have. You might ask the question then, why can we plant a bald cypress, which apparently needs a lot of water to grow in an area that's a lot drier? Well, that's not the limiting factor. The limiting factor in plants that can grow close to the water, like red maple, sycamore, birch, they like lowland areas or can grow lowland areas, it's a matter of the aeration of the soil. They can survive fairly well in low oxygenated soils like you would have in an area with a high water table and a lot of water in it. So if that's a limiting factor, then they can certainly do well in a little bit more arid soils where there isn't water, because that's the limiting factor, not the amount of water they get. So here again we have the dawn redwood, and if we get down to it, I'll show you later today, the bald cypress. It's a lot bigger tree because it's been here a little bit longer than this. Okay, the tree in my back, the upright or fastigiate tree, is the Persian Parrotia or Parrotia persica. Okay, and it's an interesting tree. It's a very nice shade tree. Shows a lot of different interest to it, which I'll show you a little bit closer up as we get there. But I think it's, again, these trees that we're showing you, these large trees, when we planted them 14 years ago, I had a master gardener who was in his 80s helping me. And we went down to a nursery down in Ashland, Virginia, and picked up trees. And I don't know if you ever heard the old adage, my mother used to say to me all the time, at dinner time, Guy, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Well, we got trees with balls that were at least 2.5 feet, huge things, which neither one of us could handle. We ended up spending the whole day digging the holes for these 4 trees, and then we had to bring the truck up and roll them off to get them into the holes. Since then, I've learned my lesson. We plant not small trees, but certainly nothing that is that big. And this was one of them, the Parrotia. I'd like to show you what the leaves look like. It is in the Hamamelidaceae family, which is the witch hazel family. And you'll see why it is in there, and that has some certain interest to it as well. Okay, so now here we are close up to this Parrotia, and I kind of wanted to show you the leaves on it. These are simple leaves again, I mean not compound, but this is in one of the leaves, and you can see how the upper half is sort of scalloped like that. And what does it look like? It looks like a witch hazel leaf. Okay, so it is in that family, Hamamelidaceae. One of the attributes to this particular plant, like many in that family, have multicolored leaves in the fall. So the leaves will turn purplish, reddish, orangish, and even maybe some yellow which gives it a very beautiful appearance in the fall. And that's probably the main reason why I like this tree so much. Okay, the tree in my back is actually the last of the 4 trees that we planted way back so many years ago. Again, it was a large planting of it, or a large sized ball to it. But this is the Chinese Pistacia, or Pistacia chinensis. I first was introduced to this plant at the Ginter Arboretum down in Henrico. I saw it from a distance. The form was absolutely fantastic. I loved the texture of it. And as I got closer, I really began to learn a little bit about this tree. Just as a side note, this is in the Anacardiaceae family, which is kind of one of those families that's kind of unusual. That's the same family as cashews or pistachias. Now, this is not the pistacia tree that gives the little pistacia nuts. That is a different species. That's Pistacia vera. Okay, and that is what they grow over in the Mid-East for those nuts that we love so much. But this tree is very ornamental in and of itself. One striking part of this tree that I really like is the fall color. It's pretty consistent with a fire engine red, maybe sometimes tending toward orange, but a very bright reddish orangish color in the fall. They'll just knock your socks off. It's absolutely gorgeous tree. Okay, so we're underneath the Chinese Pistacia right now, and I wanted to show you, give you a little bit of botany or ID stuff. These are compound leaves on the Chinese Pistacia. All right, so this is a leaf, the entire leaf. These are called leaflets. It's called a compound because it's divided into leaflets rather than just a blade like we have with the Parrotia. Okay, so this is a leaflet. Now, I want to show you that, and sometimes it can be confusing when you look at a plant. This is from the Chinese elm, and actually it looks pretty much similar, doesn't it? Now, this has more serrations on it than the Pistacia. It doesn't have any serrations, but this could be mistaken for compound if you just look at the superficial nature or a profile of the leaf. But if you look at the leaf very closely, and you look in the down in the axil of it, there's a little bud. Buds only form on branches or twigs, not on leaves. This is the whole leaf. This is called a rachis right here. And so the leaves are attached, leaflets are attached to the rachis, and you'll never get a bud. You anatomically cannot get a bud on the leaf itself. Buds do not form on leaves. They only form on stems. And so each one of these is a leaf, and you have a bud between each one of them. Generally speaking, you can tell that difference because what attaches the leaf to the stem is what we call a petiole. That little stem-like thing is called a petiole. These are not petioles attached to the rachis. They actually, taxonomists call them petioles. So the petiole is what's attached to the stem, and because it's usually surrounded in a bud of some sort, it could be another stem bud or another leaf bud or even a flower bud, but whatever, because there's a bud there, it will surround it and be a little bit swollen. And you can see the base of the petiole there is just a little bit swollen. And I want to show that in conjunction with a American elm. This again is not a compound. Each one of these are leaves, and there is a bud between each one of them. And then finally the Parrotia. And what's so interesting about the Parrotia, it is a simple leaf. So each one of these, and you can actually see the buds very clearly at the base of the petiole. This is an interesting plant because if I can find one, it has stipules. Stipules are little organelles that form on each side. It could be fleshy or they can be a thorn-like, like with the black locust, that are on each side of it. That's called a stipule. But you can see the bud there, and here's the leaf. Okay, so that's how you tell the difference between compound and simple leaves. The tree behind me is one of my absolute favorite trees. It's European Beech, tricolor is the cultivar, Fagus sylvatica tricolor. Now, the European beeches are one of my favorite species of trees because there's so many varieties. We are standing in my beech forest at Cossey Park, and we used to have about 7 different types of beech. You have the copper beech, and the split leaf beech, the purple fountain weeping beech, and we have the tricolor here. Now, we only have 2 right now, so we've got to replenish them. We've lost them due to various problems with dogs and other things happening with their leashes and all. And but nonetheless, this particular beech has lasted. We do have it planted in full sun, and it does scorch a little bit in full sun. But this is an absolute gorgeous beech. It's called tricolor for a reason. And if you can see the foliage, it will have 3 different colors on it. Okay, it will have. Beech is just attacking me. Okay, it will have pink, purple, deep purple or burgundy, and cream, all in the same leaf. Very ornamental. So you can imagine it gives you color all summer long without any flowers. Absolutely gorgeous beech. Fagus sylvatica tricolor. Now, one thing I just wanted to show you, all the European beeches have a simple leaf like this that have sort of a scallop edge to them. All right, somewhat rounded. That's different than the American beech, which I absolutely love the American beech, but there's not near the cultivars in that. It's a gorgeous large tree, native tree that grows all over Virginia, the grandifolia, Fagus grandifolia. So the European beech, all the cultivars have this more roundish leaf to them, but they have so many different qualities. I'm going to show you the other beech we have here in a minute. Now they are in the family Fagaceae, which is actually the same family as the oaks. Different genus, Quercus for the oaks, Fagus for the beeches. Okay, how about this specimen behind me? Fagus sylvatica purple fountain. Isn't it absolutely, well, let's see, grotesque, monstrosity, but it has its own beauty. Just the way it has its pendulous, it has the deep dark purple, which actually further on in the season will turn almost black. And just think of that, with this almost scary habit to it with black foliage. You can't go wrong with something like this. That would really be an attention getter. There's a large one, probably about 45, 50 feet tall, at the University of Mary Washington that grows against a building that goes straight up and then straight down with black foliage, just like this. Again, this is in the European beech family, so it's Fagus sylvatica, just like the tricolor was, but its cultivar name is purple fountain, and you can see the variety that this particular species has. Okay, I'd like to finish our tour today showing you something I showed you the last time we were here, but it wasn't quite in full bloom, and that is this gorgeous Fort McNair horse chestnut, Aesculus carnea Fort McNair. It's in full bloom now, and I really wanted you to see the full glory of this tree. Now, we're going to be doing more walks through Cossey Park in the future, so stay tuned while we cover some more of these as they come out in bloom. Thank you.